Sir Vincent Fean joins us, former Consul General to Jerusalem from 2010 to 2014 and trustee of the Balfour Project, a group working towards solutions in the Middle East. Thank you for coming on the programme. I wonder if you managed to catch some of what the spokesperson for the Israeli government was telling us there about this incident and what you made of it. Good afternoon.
I did. Thank you for having me, Tom. It isn't an isolated incident. It was an avoidable catastrophe. All human life is sacred, be it Israeli, Palestinian, British. But I just point out that UNRWA, the UN Relief Works Agency, which is the best equipped aid agency to help Palestinians in Gaza, has had over 100 people killed in this war. There are over 70 reporters killed. And there's an allegation that the IDF shot to death 2 doctors, a mother and son, at a Shifa hospital at the weekend. This is not an isolated incident. And I do believe that the United Kingdom needs to react and not just talk.
The reaction so far from the United Kingdom has been diplomatically to bring in Israel's ambassador to the UK for presumably a meeting without coffee. What does that involve? What can be expected from that, do you think?
I think it's part of a diplomatic process to allow Israel to explain itself. My proposal would be that the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, my old department, should heed the legal advice that I believe exists within the department and suspend arms deliveries to Israel forthwith to avoid being complicit in indiscriminate killing in Gaza. There are other things to do, but that is the first thing that I believe should be done, because I do believe that the legal advice within the Foreign and Commonwealth Office is saying if we continue to supply arms, including components for the F-35 bomber, we will be complicit in this indiscriminate killing.
If it's the case that the IDF targeted these vehicles, whether they believe them to be charity or Hamas, whatever they did, it nevertheless resulted in 7 innocent people dying. In your mind, does that constitute a war crime? And is Britain therefore complicit in war crimes by supplying arms to Israel?
There is a risk of that complicity, which is why I propose, and others from the military and elsewhere have proposed the same, a suspension of transfer of arms, not only by us, but also by the United States, which is by far the biggest supplier. And there's one more point, Tom, on aid. Israel is refusing to cooperate with the UN Relief Works Agency, which has got 13,000 staff in Gaza. It's lost the 100 dead that I've mentioned. It is the best equipped agency for delivery of aid, alongside the World Central Kitchen. But it is the big one. And Israel is refusing to cooperate with it. And it's calling UNRWA Hamas, which is a travesty. UNRWA is an aid agency of the United Nations, best equipped to stem famine in Gaza. And there is famine in Gaza.
We do know that there are UNRWA workers taking part in the Hamas attack, or at least those are the reports.
There is an allegation, not yet substantiated, and 12 people have been sacked. But 12 people out of 13,000 tells me that the vast majority of UNRWA workers are doing what they're paid to do, which is to try to deliver aid in a situation where 2.2 million people have been displaced. Can I just add, Tom, that the ICJ last week renewed its call on Israel to scale up the aid going into Gaza. There should be 500 lorries a day going in. There are less than half that. And Israel can make that happen. And that was also the tone of the UN Security Council resolution adopted last Monday. Immediate release of all hostages held by Hamas, which must happen, both sides to cease firing, and the aid to be scaled up. Okay. The problem is Israel is not listening to its friends. It's not listening to Biden. It's not listening to Sunak, and that's very worrying.
Let's see if the Israeli ambassador to the UK is listening at their meeting at the Foreign Office this afternoon. Thanks for coming on, Sir Vincent Fean, former Consul General to Jerusalem from 2010 to 2014. Come to your thoughts on what action should be taken given the result of what happened in Gaza, northern Gaza last night.
I'm just calling because, I mean, you've been implying that it was intentional. Putting yourself from the Israeli perspective, why on earth would they do such a thing? I mean, clearly the backlash has been horrific. And if they're looking just to randomly kill civilians, they probably would have chosen civilians that are not going to cause their allies to get into such an uproar, would they?
Hang on, it talks about, let's just be clear about what the intention is. I don't think that Israel's intention was to kill those aid workers. I do think that it was intentional that they struck those vehicles. Otherwise, they wouldn't have hit them. They knew that they were targeting those vehicles, and they hit them. The question is, why didn't they know, how didn't they know, or did they know whether they were an aid convoy?
Well, so to put in context what Netanyahu was saying, unintentional, I assume what he meant was unintentional that aid workers were killed, as opposed to whoever they thought were travelling in those convoys. That would make sense. How is it
that a charity which was travelling in a deconflicted zone, having told the IDF in advance where they were going, is nevertheless targeted in an intentional way like this?
I can't answer that, obviously, what I can ask you, though, is there has to be some sort of incentive for Israel to target them, and I can highly doubt it would have been random targeting of aid workers. So I don't know what the scenario was, but surely it would have been something cause for concern for the Israeli government. Would that not make sense?
It might make sense, but I'm afraid it doesn't act as an explanation when 7 aid workers have been killed, 3 of them British.
Yeah, I'm not justifying. I'm sure they will have to come up with an explanation. But the point I'm trying to make is that it definitely wasn't just a random killing. And
well, if the explanation, Harry, if the explanation is we got this wrong, we thought those vehicles contained people that they didn't contain, we thought Hamas was using them as a whatever.
Right.
What should the response be? Because I'm not sure that this can be. There's fog of war and there's miscalculation in war and there's all that. I'm not sure this can be allowed, given the context of everything else, to go unrecognised by Israel's allies.
Well, I think we'd probably have to give them a chance first to explain themselves, which that's what the spokesperson, I can't remember his name, is trying to say, that they're trying to get to the bottom of how this catastrophe happened. But 100% it needs a response. But as I say, it's the only people to suffer from this are the Israeli people. I mean, obviously the people who died, but it's clearly a very, very bad publicity for Israel, and they would be completely stupid to have done this without having a legitimate reason to try a real cause for concern. I mean,
I don't know that. I'm sorry, but I don't know the legitimate reason stacks up after 7 aid workers, 3 British, have died as a result of this. The legitimate reason isn't a reason if innocent people have died. Harry, thank you for the call. Abdullah's in Ilford. Hi, Abdullah.
Hi, Tom.
Your thoughts?
I think the Israeli spokesman, they always dish out all these narratives continuously. They're trying to, basically, this is ludicrous and preposterous. They've killed aid workers before. They've killed journalists before. They've killed doctors before. They've killed other aid workers before, other staff in the nurses before. They've killed anybody and everybody from all walks. This is nothing new to them. The only thing I think that they messed up on, I think, in a sense, in one way, one angle, is that they didn't realise it was British citizens in there as well. But realistically, they've targeted everybody from every walk of life, from toddlers to unborn children, pregnant mothers, to you name it. They've targeted and killed everybody. So what more reasons do we need? What more excuses do we need from Israel before we start? We cut off the aid. We cut off the bombs going to them. We actually hold them down and take them to the tribunal, these war criminals, take them to The Hague and have them.
Well, Abdullah, what's the point? I mean, what's the point of taking them to a trial to determine whether or not they have committed war crimes if you've already found them guilty?
I'm telling you, put it this way: the proof of the pudding is in eating, Tom. You look. I don't just say it. If it was just me ranting, having a rant, as it were, that's not the point. The point is, there's independent, for example, Chris Cobb-Smith. You look at security analyst. There's Al Jazeera investigation.
We can come up with loads of different people who say different things, including experts on genocide about whether or not a genocide has been committed. There are lots of different experts who say different things about whether or not a genocide has been committed.
But forget the semantics, Tom. The thing is, forget the wording. Look at the reality on the ground. The reality is they've killed thousands of innocents, 14,000 children, as it were. What sort of excuses do they need to have, to kill 14,000 children, let alone all the rest? This is preposterous.
Well, what they would say is these are civilians being used by Hamas as human shields.
So just over a year ago, remember Olivia Pratt-Corbell, the 9-year-old who was killed in her house? Was she a human shield? Was she a human shield when she was killed, and her mother was hurt by a guy firing a gun from outside the house? She wasn't a human shield, Tom. She was never a human shield. She was an innocent victim.
I'm sorry, but that analogy ignores... It's a terrible, terrible one, by the way. That ignores the fact that Hamas have been using hospitals and schools to either store weapons or to regroup in or in facilitating their aims in that way, doesn't it?
Israel are psychopathic liars. They lie over everything. Even the Shireen, I forgot her name, the journalist, Shireen.
So it's all a lie. The stuff about the munitions found in schools, in UN schools in Gaza, is a lie?
Of course it's a lie, Tom.
I see. And it's a lie based on you knowing that because?
Because other people have verified it. People on the ground. There's a British. I forgot his name now. I forgot his name. The James Elder from the UN Relief Agency. And there's many doctors without borders. When you listen to all their interviews, you know that Israel is lying.
All right, Abdullah. I'm afraid I don't. You can't say they're all lying and my side isn't, because you've gone into the tribalism of it, I'm afraid.
The world have watched Israel carry out killing of women and children, and babies in incubators turning off oxygen and so on. All these dreadful, dreadful things. We really should have spoken out very strongly against these things by now.
Who's we?
I mean, it is completely the West. The West, in fact, the world on the whole. The International International Criminal Court is actually investigating Israel for war crimes at the moment. We know that what they're doing is wrong, and actually, it should not really come as a surprise to us that they have, actually carried out this strike on a convoy. Killing has now,
why isn't it?
Because they're killing, they're killing in a way that is completely alarming. They've actually, telling us that they're going after Hamas, but we can see that they're killing women and children to such a huge extent.
So what should happen, Nicola? What should happen now?
What should happen now is we should enforce a ceasefire. We should stop arms sales. America has to stop arms sales to Israel. I mean,
even if that means limiting or removing the possibility of Israel hitting Hamas targets or killing Hamas fighters.
The thing is, we all know, look, put it this way, if, God forbid, Britain had found itself in that situation, we wouldn't be behaving the way Israel is behaving now. Frankly, Israel is behaving like a pariah state. I'm not saying it's a pariah state. Tell that to who?
Tell that to Afghans.
Why should I tell that to Afghans?
Well, the British Army went in there, set up bases, invaded the country in order to get Osama bin Laden.
Right. Well, I mean, we're not talking about Afghanistan. I'm not so sure that I understand the analogy that you're making there. What we're looking at is a problem that has been there for 75 years. Quite frankly, if we are not careful with this situation, we could find ourselves in World War III.
All right, Nicola, I'll leave it there only for time reasons. Thank you.